by artist Beeple, who I
Mhm.
actually was honored to meet him multiple times in different, events. And that was created a historical moment when it was sold for $69 million at Christie auction house and making a, significant milestone in the integration of NFTs in the world. And this single NFT sale not only showcased the potential of digital assets and an entire NFT space, but highlighted that the transformative power of artists who can come out and sell not only something that is already popular from very popular artists, but something that can be created by a person like who's just super talented. So with this kind of reminder, I just want to ask you, Time, what have you started to become involved in this industry?
So yeah, Beeple is kind of like the Web3 NFT version of like I don't know, famous artist Michelangelo or something. But everything he touches turns to gold. But yeah, I got involved in Web3 and NFTs and cryptocurrency. I want to say, I mean, time kind of flies in this space, but almost 4 years ago, started trading crypto. Kind of like moved from stocks to cryptocurrency. And then NFTs really caught my eye, just kind of the technology, the blockchain technology. And really it was the cryptocurrency that brought me here. And a friend of mine had told me about, a couple of these projects that were popping up around Bored Ape Yacht Club. I wasn't involved in Bored Ape, but some projects that came after that I had got involved in, and I had already been on Discord with like the gaming community. So it kind of all tied together, and a project dropped. It was called Basefish Mafia. I have some of the stuff behind me, but that was one of the first projects. I want to say, 2021. And, I was there at Mint. I had got involved very heavily in the community, and they were looking for someone to do their social media. And that was kind of my first jumping off point into Web3. I started building, helping that community and putting on events. And I started to get on podcasts to promote the project. And then someone had told me I should start my own show. So that is how NFT and Chill came to be in September of no, I'm sorry, November of 2021. So, and then it just blew up. Like 2 months in, it was in like the top 5% of all podcasts. And yeah, I've built a couple of communities in the space. And years later, we're still here. So
And that's amazing. I think that your dedication shows that regardless of the markets, people like you are building and trying to deliver, which is very important. It's very easy to do it when everything goes like perfectly and smoothly, when people are making money, but it's much harder when we're 2 years in a downtrend and still have to, continue. So given the different range of our viewers and of your viewers also, like, can you provide a simplified explanation? What is an NFT for you?
so an NFT, like in the simplest form, is just it's a digital asset. It is basically just a unique line of code that represents really anything. It can represent a piece of artwork. It can represent a document. If you look at what Ethereum's doing with what is that? He named it after a video game. Scroll. I can't remember, but it's where you can give someone the coin, but they can't. It's I'm blanking right now, but anyway, it can represent virtually anything. It's a digital asset that's unique to its own line of code. That's the simplest form.
Now, if you would go in a deeper level, right, for more advanced audience, like what a non-fungible token can represent for people like, who want to explore, let's say, tokenization.
So yeah, in a deeper sense, it can be, a like artwork is kind of what most people know it as. NFTs, you see all this art, Bored Apes, people, but it can be a membership. It can be, you know, it can start to be like, let's say, something unique like a Rolex or even like your car. It can be a certificate to verify something. It can be medical records. It can be, passports, documents. I mean, where it's like safe on the blockchain and it's also publicly verified to where anybody can see it. I mean, really the sky's the limit. But what we've seen so far really is the artwork, the membership stuff, the DAO tokenization to where you're a member of a DAO, things like that.
Yeah. And it's coming back to the reality of this, like right now, this moment, as we talk with you, like in the September 1st, 2023, right? We quoted Snoop Dogg, who's famously participated in NFT projects. So like he said that every great industry has a downfall. So the crypto winter, as we experience it right now, has been prolonged, and its effects have also been felt in the realm of NFTs. The question to you is, could you elaborate on the perspective regarding the future of NFTs and highlight the aspects that you find are more exciting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, NFTs and crypto kind of go hand in hand in terms of value because it is essentially a token on a certain blockchain. But, a couple years ago during like, the real gold rush summer where NFTs blew up. I mean, you saw Bored Ape Yacht Clubs were selling for millions of dollars, crypto punks, so even just I remember minting. If you minted a project, you could make 5 times your money. And then the market got incredibly saturated. Everybody kind of just started making these cash grabs, and it really diluted the market. It diluted what NFTs were about, and now it's just, hey, let's generate, put some artwork, and whether it be like an animal or what have you, into a generator, and we can make a bunch of money. So that diluted the market. So artwork, I think, will always have a place in Web3 because there are names and, there is a rarity factor to it. And then you might have, the historical side, like the first, 100 projects that actually came out might be worth something someday. But it needs to be more than that. It needs to be practical. It needs to be something that people can get value from. The everyday person who's not behind a laptop or tech savvy, like voting. Voting is a great tool that can be done on the blockchain to where it can not only be simple, but it can be safe to where it's, there's not fraud happening you know like with these elections we've had the past 8 years.
Mhm.
So I mean that's one use case, but I mean there's so many. Like I said with Rolex, you go to buy a Rolex on the secondhand market, you don't know if it's real or fake. But if Rolex itself minted an NFT for every unique watch that they created, then you would, if the person didn't have the NFT, then if that was
Provenance.
publicly verified, then it's not a real Rolex. I mean, the sky's the limit. Medical records, all of that.
Correct. And let's talk about like another like trend that artificial intelligence. So AI gains prominence in the world of NFTs and is evolving too. So maybe could you point out and discuss how AI is currently impacting NFTs and transforming the creation and the valuation of overall interaction with digital artworks?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence is definitely a double-edged sword. You could go, you could go with the whole like Terminator thing where it might end the world and humanity one day, but or you could, it could take people's jobs, or it could dilute the market where people are generating art with artificial intelligence and anybody can become an artist because the artificial intelligence itself doesn't own the artwork. The person hitting the button does. So, but artificial intelligence with me, what I use it for is like content creation. If when I create an episode for NFT and Chill, or if I'm doing a social media stuff and it just gets stale and repetitive, if you use artificial intelligence in just the best way, I think you can just get the ideas from it. Generate, don't copy it word for word, but it can help in content creation in a number of ways.
Mhm.
But yeah, right now it seems we're getting a lot of AI generated art.
Yes, and it's scary because there was an experiment I think NFT Now did, like the AI generation equivalent to the top collections, and
Mm-hmm.
ironically they're better looking than the originals, right? So that's hard to even like. Like I'm talking about aesthetic values.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
you cannot remove the trust in the blockchain and the community, right? But like aesthetically, it's like incredible. Like it just disrupts a lot of industries. But obviously, it's a big topic, so we're not going to go too deep right now. Um, I'm just curious, like, can you take us to this, like, back to this aha moment when you were a leading voice in the Web3 community, host, renowned NFT and Chill podcast, truly grasped how NFTs, like, were about to reshape the entire Web3 space? What was it for you?
That's a great question. So, I mean, really, like, it's the technology behind it. When I look at the dollar, let's say, paper money, it just seems like every day it depreciates and it just becomes more obsolete. And just the fact that, if you lose your wallet with all your money in it, you're never going to get that back. Um, so it's stuff like that, to where like digital currency and like Ethereum and Bitcoin and all of this, it's definitely the wave of the future, and NFTs go right along with that. You know, Instead of going to the store, like when COVID was happening, people couldn't go out, people were getting sick. We're kind of in another wave of that now. I mean, with the metaverse itself, you could do virtual shopping with the metaverse. You can, talk to people. It brings the world so much closer. Like I have so many friends from all over the world now because of the Web3 space and NFTs and Web3. So yeah, I mean, it's just the sky's the limit, and it's the technology behind it that was really like kind of the aha moment for me.
So before we jump to the questions from the audience, I'll have last bonus question. So, um, really quick one. What is so far is the most exciting integration of NFT like that you've seen, like implementation in real life that you actually would use?
So I've had a number of people on NFT and Chill where we've talked about some really incredible use cases. There was a medical professional that was talking about and what I was talking about earlier. It was called the Soulbound token.
Mm,
So what Soulbound does is it's basically a document that can't be changed, and it's issued by the issuer. So like it'd be like birth certificate, stuff like that.
mhm,
Now with, let's say you go in for a like a blood test, or you're in a cancer study or a blind study. You don't get to benefit from a lot of what happens with those studies. And she was talking about how NFTs and blockchain technology can make it so if you're in a blind study and something comes up and you might have cancer, to where if it was attached to you like digitally, you would end up finding that out. And like, whereas these studies are right now, people don't. And these medical companies like Pfizer and all these companies, they get the sole benefit from the vaccines and all that testing. So that was one thing. There was also another project that did this. It was a portal. So they had a portal set up in Europe somewhere, and it was like a physical portal to where when you looked through it, you got to see into another city like from halfway around the world. And it was connected through NFTs, and that was actually really cool. And they had like a Discord set up, so there's a lot of like interesting stuff out there. But I think that's what we need to do. We need to be more innovative when it comes to Web3 and when it comes to NFTs, and it has to be practical to where people can use it.
100%. I agree with that. So we opened the community like part, and thanks for this segment, right? And obviously we want to also allow our community to ask you more questions. So go right straight forward to it. So question from YouTube, Moxie is asking, your podcast covers a range of topics within NFTs. Is there a subject you're hesitant to tackle, and why?
So hesitant. We have covered basically everything. I mean, we've really started hitting on artificial intelligence of late. Um, as far as hesitant, I mean, some of these lesser blockchains, I guess you would say. I don't want to like crap on a blockchain right now and like affect the market, but I'm not the biggest fan of some blockchains. I'll just say that. And so sometimes I don't cover a lot of these lesser blockchains because you never know what's going to happen, and I don't want my viewers to fall into a rug. So I try and keep my viewers as safe as possible while being as decentralized as possible. So basically, yeah, I would just say that. Like, I'm not going to have someone come on and promote a garbage coin, I
Got
guess
it.
you could say, or a
So,
rug.
so highly vetted projects only. Got
Yeah.
it. Question from Twitter from the We the Traders. Ty, considering the 41% drop in NFT trading reported by Alchemy recently, do you think we're entering an NFT winter, and are we all NFT OGs now?
Yeah, I mean, if you were trading during the last couple of years, you're definitely an OG. As far as the winter goes, there was a boom, and then the saturation happened. Really, we're just kind of waiting for the next big thing to happen. And as far as cryptocurrency goes, I mean, it ebbs and flows. It comes in cycles. We're very early. You know, a lot of this stuff. We're so early right now. If someone from Idaho who is in their 50s and 60s can't use this technology safely and simply, then it's going to be difficult for it to be mainstream. So we got to figure out ways to make it safe, and we have to figure out ways to educate people on it.
Correct. I couldn't agree more. There's a question from LinkedIn. Jeremy, oh no, sorry, Elite NFT is asking. Um, oh no, sorry, Jeremy. Yes, that's the Jeremy. Anderson Horowitz multi-billion funds generally include NFTs. Would it break the market if A16Z wouldn't invest in NFTs?
Okay, say that again.
So Andreessen Horowitz multi-billion funds generally include NFTs.
Hmm.
So I guess he's meaning that in their investment thesis, they also invest partially into.
Yes, yes.
Although we have to double check that because it's not clear whether they're back in the infrastructure like marketplaces or like directly deploying to NFTs. That I'm not sure. Would it break the market if A16Z wouldn't invest directly in NFTs? I guess that's the question.
So yeah, I mean, definitely when you see whales or hedge funds pull out or they don't buy an asset, it definitely will affect the value or the drive of the money flow for sure. I know during especially like the boom, that summer of 2021, there were companies that were investing in NFTs to
Okay.
diversify their portfolio. They were holding CryptoPunks, they were holding, all sorts of them. I do want to mention that, through all of this, we've seen the Bored Apes go down, very heavily in price. But like Pudgy Penguins is a great example of a project that became innovative. They started coming out with action figures and plush toys. They moved to something more tangible, more practical, that and started driving it to a different audience. That's
Agreed.
yeah. These NFT projects need to be run like a business instead of a clubhouse or a project.
Yes, 100% agree. There's another question from LinkedIn. Like, how are businesses, so Manuel is asking, how are businesses adopting NFTs to create new revenue streams as of now, especially in the context of 2023?
So creating new revenue streams for companies like Gap and stuff like that.
I think yes. Like for example, like if a company wants, like a traditional company wants to add additional revenue stream and they're looking into NFTs, how that can
Okay.
be.
So, I mean, we've seen it over the past year to where, like I mentioned, Gap and other like big name brands have issued these special edition NFTs to for as a membership program, like a rewards program, things like that. I mean, that is what we've seen so far. I don't have an NFT project. I've never created one. Right now, I help build communities. I consult on blockchain technology. But as far as that, like right now, these companies that are looking to get into Web3 and carve out something, to get ahead of everything. They're doing memberships, they're doing reward programs. Disney's doing like the special edition stuff. It's things like that, collectibles.
Right. So, question from YouTube. So Vasco is asking, the SEC's recent scrutiny on DeFi projects has implications for NFTs. What's your take on it, and what do they want from us?
So it goes back to safety. It's a double-edged sword. Like we are decentralized. We don't want anybody coming in and telling us what to do and all of that. But at the same time, if someone gets their wallet hacked, if what was there, 500 million, a billion in crypto in the last year was
Oh,
stolen, like it's
more,
ridiculous.
unfortunately.
And the
Yeah.
worst part about it is we don't blame the hackers. We don't blame the criminals. We blame the regular people who get their money stolen in Web3.
Hmm.
And that has always rubbed me the wrong way because it's self custody. But, you know, we need to start making this a safer place. We need to start going after the people that are stealing hardworking people's their money. And once it becomes a safer place, it becomes the sky's the limit.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting. I was reading yesterday a report by Munify, like about the crypto losses. As of now, in August 2023, already $1.2 billion were stolen.
Yeah.
And it's insane. I think you think
Nobody's
about
convicted. Nobody talks about the people stealing
exactly.
the money. They're
And
not
there's
vilified.
And there's two things like where are major happening. One is hack and one is a fraud, right? So
Mhm.
those are different, and I would really differentiate them. Like some people get hacked, and it's just really hard because the hackers are very sophisticated. They may be somewhere in North Korea, Russia, I don't know, many other places, and you cannot get them. Whereas a fraud is when like founders, doing a very egregious like rug pull or other things, right? And that's where I think the you would want to seek the protection, right? That's what you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I would like it, you know, to be all around. I mean, I'm very for decentralization. Like that is why I got into this. But when somebody gets all their NFTs or all their crypto hacked, and everybody in the Discord or everybody on Twitter is blaming them, yeah, it might have been their fault. It might have not been their fault. Some of these hacks are so sophisticated, they can't be protected against. And nobody even says like anything about the person who stole the money. So that has always rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know.
Exactly. By the way, there is a fun question, which is I guess from a person who's more attentive. So La Flame is asking like from YouTube, like, what is this boardfish mafia on the wall? Looks like you're using subconscious tactics.
It is the first project that I got involved in. It's one of the very early NFT projects. It came out a few months after Bored Ape Yacht Club, and yeah, it's something that's always dear to my heart. The ones in the middle are actually my podcast. An artist actually did that for the show. So, and then the other one's the cover art. One of them's me. So yeah.
And other fun questions from Web3 Witch. You interviewed a variety of guests on your podcast. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about Web3?
That's a great. I mean, we've had so many guests. The most surprising thing that I've learned. That's a tough question.
Mm.
I mean, honestly, that portal thing kind of blew my mind. That's something you don't hear about every day. I don't know how they're doing. I should check up on them. There was also another project, 400 drums. I mean, I like the little projects that nobody has heard of. That was a project from Canada, where it's the native people there had kind of band together and created this project where there's ceremonial drums that they make, and they made them into NFTs, and it's a very awesome project. And what I learned about it is that in Canada, the native people there are kind of not treated as great by the government, and I really didn't know that, being from America, and how we have treated but I didn't know that Canada was kind of a similar way, and they were very oppressed. So yeah, that was what surprised me. Just
Interesting.
people, meeting people from all over the world. That's what Web3 is about,
Yeah,
bringing them closer.
people surprise us every day, like, in a good way and sometimes in a bad way. So that's
Yeah,
part of life.
for
Starfield
sure.
is asking, what's the most challenging aspect or of discussing NFTs and Web3 on public platform like a podcast?
So yeah, I mean that's a great question. I have spoke at conferences all over the world, at Web3 conferences. I was in London last year for the NFT Summit. I've been to Decentral in Miami back-to-back years, NFT NYC. I spoke on stage at all of those about Web3, and I've done it on podcasts. I've been a guest on probably 18 different podcasts, and I would say speaking to the audience that is actually trying to learn something because they don't know. Like the new person who's never heard of NFTs, who doesn't know what Web3 is, that doesn't know what blockchain technology is or cryptocurrency. That is probably the most difficult thing. Like when you ask me to break it down simply for someone who doesn't know, because
Mm.
I've been so entrenched in it for years, that's the most difficult thing for me. But
Almost.
I do my best.
It's like Einstein principle, right? Is if you know something really well, that you will be able to like explain it in a nutshell to a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
child. So that's I 100% agree with you. This is one of the most challenging, but that's when you know that you're there, right? That you can
Yeah.
explain to a very, very different audience, whether I myself spoke to people like from Wall Street who are like 60 plus, like and also they're very skeptical. It's one approach when a person is open-minded, and it's a very different approach when a person is by default is skeptical. And you still have to present to them because that they have their own quota and you have your own quota. So it's you have to meet in the middle. This is
Yeah.
fun. I mean,
Basically what you have to kind of think in your mind is if you're sitting next to somebody in an airplane and you were looking at NFTs on your phone and they asked what that is, that is kind of what the mindset I get into. Like,
yeah. And there's a funny episode. I don't remember who was Joe Rogan was interviewing someone, and he was like, he would like his question was very like pertinent. He's like, why can't you just do a screenshot? It's the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
so
See, that's the screenshot debate.
the popular misconception of what NFT.
Very
And,
misconception.
and this is a, by the way, it's a very reasonable question from a person who is like learning about it for the first time, right? So
Yeah.
there you have to go and be patient, respectful, etc. 100% agree, Ty. I'm sure that we can talk about it like for hours and hours. Like, but as you know, our format is about like only 30 minutes. We're straight to the point, and we want to have you more. I really appreciate your wisdom and what you're doing for the industry. So
Thank you.
thank you so much. Yes, and hopefully, like some point, we'll be on your podcast as well, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you guys on. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
thank you for, and thank you for our community, right? Thank you for everyone for joining BullCaster today. I'm sure if you have more questions, you can find Ty on Twitter, like now, sorry, x.com, right?
Yeah, X.
Or many other platforms. He will gladly reply to you. And we'll see you in about 2 weeks. So about 12 p.m. EST on YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, and x.com Live. Thank you so much.
Thank you.